The loudest screams are the ones never spoken, and silence, my friends, is the sound that drives them mad. They won't show it, they won't say it, but your absence, it's tearing them apart from the inside. You're not reaching out, not chasing, not reacting. And that silence, it's echoing in their mind like thunder in an empty valley. The more you pull back, the more their pride tries to fill the space you left. But it can't. Because what's missing isn't just your words, it's your energy, your presence, your peace. Before we dive into this, hit that like button, press subscribe, and stay with me. Because what I'm about to share might sting a little, but it will free you a lot. Hey folks, imagine this for a second. Imagine a room filled with smoke, but the fire's already gone. The scent of it still lingers in the air. It's in the curtains, in the walls, in every breath they take. That's you. You're the fire that's already left. But the smoke, the memories, the warmth that turned cold too fast. That's what's driving them crazy. They're still breathing it in, even though you're not around anymore. You think they're fine? You think they're moving on? Let me break the lie right now. They're not fine. They're frozen. Because pride is a cage that looks like strength on the outside, but feels like torment on the inside. And they're trapped in it. Every time they think about reaching out to you, their pride grabs them by the throat and whispers, "Don't be weak." Let them text first. Let them feel the pain. But here's the truth, they already do. You see, people don't break over loud arguments. They break in silence. They crumble in the quiet. They break when they stare at your name and can't bring themselves to press send. Not because they don't want to, but because they're scared you won't reply. Scared you moved on. Scared your silence isn't anger, it's peace. And peace, my friends, is the most dangerous thing to lose. Seneca once said, "If you want to be powerful, master your own emotions." That's what you've done. You've taken your power back, not by punishing them, not by playing games, but by stepping away and letting your absence speak. And trust me, it's speaking louder than any words ever could. They'll act tough. They'll post photos, laugh too loud, pretend they're glowing. But at night, when the followers are gone and the filters fade, it's your silence that sits next to them. It's your name they almost whisper. But they won't, because they're waiting for you to break first. Waiting for a message, a call, a sign that you still care. But that's not your job anymore. You're not here to fix their ego. You're not here to break your own heart trying to save theirs. You're here to grow, to evolve, to rise above the games and drama and silent wars. Because real power isn't about saying something clever. Real power is walking away and letting time reveal who really cared and who just wanted control. So stay silent, stay strong, stay focused on you, and remember, when you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you stop explaining, you start becoming. And when you stop showing up for people who stay hidden behind pride, you become unforgettable. Now, if you're with me, if you're done being the one who always breaks first, type it in the comments. I choose my peace. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Smash that like button. Subscribe for more power like this, and stay with me, because this journey, my friends, is just getting started. Number 1, they feel the void, but pride builds the wall. It's not your silence that's hurting them, it's what your silence forces them to feel. You ever walk into a room where someone just left, but their presence still lingers? Like you can feel the warmth fading from where they sat, or smell their cologne hanging in the air, even though they're long gone. That's you now. That's what your absence has become for them, a ghost that doesn't vanish, a memory that refuses to die quietly. And the craziest part? They feel it, every single day. But they won't reach out, not because they don't want to, but because they can't bear to be the one to fold first. See, pride is a twisted kind of armor. It protects the ego, but it strangles the heart. And that's the war they're fighting right now. Their heart is screaming to speak to you, and their pride is whispering, "Stay quiet, don't look weak." You've crossed their mind more times than they'll ever admit. They wonder what you're doing, who you're with, if you've moved on. They play little games in their head. Maybe they'll text today, or "I'll wait just one more day," maybe they'll give in. But day after day, you don't. And that's where the madness starts. Their mind becomes the battlefield, and every quiet moment becomes an ambush of emotions they can't control. They start thinking things like, "Why haven't they reached out? Were they ever even hurt? Did I ever even matter?" They begin questioning themselves, replaying the moments, scanning for signs. But they'll never admit that to you. Because if they admit it, it means they care. It means they're still affected. And pride won't let them confess that vulnerability. Not now. Not when they spent so long trying to look like they had the upper hand. But here's the part they didn't see coming. The silence they thought would punish you is now their prison. They thought they could wait you out, that you'd come crawling back like before, that eventually the silence would break and your name would light up their phone screen. But it hasn't. And now, that silence is turning into fear. Fear that you're really gone, that you're really over it, that this time they lost someone who won't come back. And my friends, that fear, it's brutal because it makes them question not just you, but themselves, their choices, their behavior, their entire sense of control. They start to realize that maybe, just maybe, they weren't as in control as they thought. Maybe you were the one holding it all together, and that scares them. But still, they say nothing, because the same pride that's killing them is the only thing they know how to hold on to. And the longer it goes on, the heavier it gets. It's like standing in front of a door you desperately want to open, but refusing to turn the handle just to prove a point. That's the lie they're living right now. And you're not responsible for their inner chaos. You're not required to break your peace so they can soothe their ego. You're not the one who needs to prove anything, because your absence, your silence, it's already speaking volumes. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're not playing games. You're not reacting. You're not bending. You're standing firm in your worth, and that's what's breaking them more than any words ever could. So stay strong. Don't give in just because they're quiet. Don't assume silence means peace. It often means panic. Let your stillness echo. Let your absence teach them what presence really meant. And let their pride be the wall that keeps them stuck while you keep rising. If this truth hits home, if you know someone out there is silently hurting because you chose yourself, write it in the comments. My silence has power. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world you're no longer seeking comfort in someone else's chaos. Press that like button. Subscribe to keep walking this powerful path with me, and stay right here, because what comes next will open their eyes even more. Number 2. Why they stalk your silence in secret. They won't text you, but they'll scroll through your life like archaeologists digging through ruins they helped destroy. They act like they don't care, like they're too busy, too healed, too unbothered. But when the world goes quiet and they're alone with their thoughts, guess where they go? Straight to your digital doorstep. They open your profile like it's a window into a world they no longer have access to, and they look, quietly, consistently, almost religiously. They don't like your posts. They don't comment. They don't even breathe near a heart button, because that would mean being seen. That would mean showing their hand. But don't get it twisted. They are watching. They're dissecting every word you say, every picture you post, trying to find clues in the silence. They'll convince themselves it's nothing, just curiosity, just a quick check-in. But that's a lie wrapped in ego. The truth is, your silence is too loud for them to ignore, and they're looking for signs that maybe, just maybe, you're still holding on to. They hope for a cryptic caption that sounds like them, a moody quote about loss, a song lyric that feels like a secret message. And if you post something positive, something that screams peace or success or joy, it messes with their head even more. Because that's not the version of you they expected. That's not the broken you they hope to find. That's not the person who should be doing fine without them. But here's where the game flips. Because while they're out there watching, hoping, stalking for validation, you're not playing for them. You're not posting for them. And if you are, stop. Right now. Because the second you shape your actions around their curiosity, you surrender your power. You fall into the same trap they're stuck in, living through someone else's lens. Let me tell you something hard but freeing. You don't exist to feed anyone's silent obsession. Your story, your glow-up, your peace. It isn't content for their guilt. It's not a show for them to secretly enjoy while pretending they've moved on. You're not the movie playing in the background of their emotional theater. A Stoic man knows this. He doesn't drop hints. He doesn't post for attention. He doesn't try to signal anything, because he doesn't need to. He lives, fully, authentically, loud in his purpose, quiet in his presence. That's what drives them mad. Not just that you're silent, but that you're thriving in it. And here's the irony. They left thinking you'd chase. They expected you to spiral, to react, to try and win them back. But instead, you vanished with purpose. And now, every time they watch your life, they're reminded of what they let go, of what they no longer influence, of what they can't access. That's not just silence anymore. That's transformation. That's payback without ever lifting a finger. They sit there, staring at your glow from behind a screen, wondering, how are they doing better without me? Why aren't they breaking like I thought they would? And that question right there, it haunts them, because it forces them to confront something pride never wants to admit. Maybe you were the one they needed, not the one who needed them. So stay unbothered. Don't post for them. Don't signal. Don't react. Don't give them anything they can cling to in their denial. Let them wonder. Let them spiral. Let them scroll through your joy without understanding how you found it without them. Because true strength, it isn't loud. It doesn't beg to be seen. It doesn't send subliminals. It just is. And that's your power now. You're not in their inbox. You're in their head. And they put you there all by themselves. If you feel this, if you know they're silently watching but too prideful to reach out, write this in the comments. I'm done being their secret. Let them see it. Let the world see it. And most importantly, let yourself see it. Press like, hit that subscribe button, and stay close, because we're just getting warmed up. What's coming next? It'll make them feel your silence in ways they never expected. Number 3. Every day without you is a battle of ego versus emotion. Pride is a mask worn by fear. It smiles on the outside while screaming on the inside. Every single day you stay silent, something inside them grows louder. Not love, not peace, but conflict. A full-blown war between the part of them that wants to reach out and the part that's terrified to look vulnerable. That war doesn't stop. It doesn't rest. It's happening even as they smile, even as they post, even as they pretend they're perfectly fine. But here's the truth, my friends. They're not fine. They're frozen, trapped in a tug-of-war between ego and emotion. One voice says, "Text them. Just say something." Another screams back, "No, stay strong. They should reach out first." And so they sit there, scrolling through your name, typing and deleting messages, convincing themselves they're over it, but hoping you'll break first. You've become the shadow in their silence, the thought that won't leave when everything else goes quiet. The more you don't reach out, the more it eats at them. Because now, it's not just about you. It's about them, about what they're losing, about what they're afraid to admit. They look in the mirror and see someone who let something good slip through their fingers. But instead of facing that truth, they wear their pride like armor. They smile harder, laugh louder, party more, post more, trying to distract the world from the emptiness you left behind. But distraction doesn't heal. It delays. And eventually, it breaks. At night, when the noise fades, when there's no audience to impress, when the likes stop coming in and the phones go dark, that's when the truth creeps in. That's when your name echoes in the room. That's when they remember the warmth of your presence, the depth of your silence, and the sharp sting of your absence. But they still won't reach out. Why? Because pride is louder than pain, until it isn't, until the pain becomes unbearable, until the silence feels like a wall they built around themselves with no way out, until they realize they're not protecting themselves anymore. They're punishing themselves. You see, when you were there, they took you for granted. They assumed you'd always be around, that they could pull away, come back, push buttons, test boundaries, and you'd still be standing there. But now your stillness is shaking them. Your absence is starting to look permanent. And that is where the panic begins. They wonder, are they over me? Have they moved on? Did I mess this up for good? But pride won't let them ask. Pride says, no, don't show your cards, don't look weak. So they wait. Wait for a sign, a message, a moment of weakness from you. But the longer you stay silent, the more that wait turns into torment. And here's where it gets real. This battle, it's not yours to fight. You've already fought enough. You showed up, you gave, you cared. Now it's their turn. But instead of stepping forward, they hide behind ego. And ego, my friends, doesn't heal. It hardens. It buries the truth until it's too late. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Their pride is the impediment, their silence, their wall. But your absence, that's what's forcing them to finally feel, finally face what they've been running from. So stay grounded. Don't crack. Don't text just because your mind wanders or your heart gets heavy. Because every day you hold your silence is a day they have to sit with what they did and what they lost. And trust me, they feel it. Not always loudly, not always clearly, but deeply. In those quiet moments, in the stillness of night, in the laughter that doesn't quite reach the heart. That's where you live now. If you're done breaking your silence to comfort someone else's pride, drop this in the comments. My silence is strength. Say it loud. Show it to them. Show it to the world. Show it to yourself. Tap the like button, hit subscribe, and stick with me. Because what we're about to uncover next, it'll break through every illusion they're hiding behind. And trust me, they'll feel it. Number 4. Breadcrumbs are not connection, they're control. A breadcrumb is not love, it's a leash made of hope. They won't reach out. Not really. not with full honesty, not with the words that matter. Instead, they drop hints, little breadcrumbs scattered just far enough to keep your attention, but never close enough to feel connection. A vague quote, a story that sounds familiar, a song that meant something to both of you, a by-accident appearance somewhere you used to go. You see it, you feel it, and deep down, part of you wants to believe it's a sign, that they still care, that they're just afraid. And maybe they do, maybe they are. But none of that matters, because breadcrumbs aren't a step toward healing. They're a trap, a psychological trick designed to keep you stuck in limbo, not fully with them, not fully without them. And here's the bitter truth. They want to know you're still there, that if they ever do decide to come back, you haven't moved on. They want access without accountability, presence without commitment. And that's not connection, that's control. They're not reaching out because they're ready. They're reaching out just enough to keep you wondering, just enough to restart your curiosity, just enough to stop you from fully detaching. And if you fall for it, you start chasing ghosts again. You start giving meaning to meaningless gestures. You start trying to solve a puzzle they aren't even trying to complete. Don't do that to yourself. Because here's what most people don't realize. When someone wants to be in your life, they make it clear. No riddles, no vague signs, no half efforts or cryptic captions. Just effort, real effort, consistent, honest, intentional effort. But someone who only throws breadcrumbs, they're not trying to love you, they're trying to manage you, trying to test you, trying to confirm, do I still have power over them? And every time you respond, every time you watch their story, like their post, reply to that random, hey, you give them a piece of your peace. Let me break the lie right now. If someone truly misses you, they won't play chess with your heart. They'll come forward with clarity. And if they don't, that's not someone who's afraid. It's someone who's still stuck in their own ego. You are not a mind reader. You're not supposed to decipher coded messages or decode emotional Morse code. You're not here to chase shadows or wait around for a signal that may never come. You're here to grow, to thrive, to live fully in your truth, not halfway in theirs. And my friends, when you refuse to chase breadcrumbs, something powerful happens. You force them to face themselves, to realize that their games no longer work on the person you've become, that you're no longer waiting for love to look like confusion. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. And what's more freeing than walking away from someone who only feeds you scraps when you deserve the feast? So let them wonder. Let them throw their little clues into the void. Let them try to bait you with memories or fake coincidences. But don't bite. Don't respond. Don't give them what they no longer deserve. You're not cold. You're not bitter. You're just done playing along. You've outgrown breadcrumbs. You've evolved past confusion. You now require clarity, and that scares them, because the second you stop dancing for attention, they realize the music is over, and they're the only one left on the floor. If you've been seeing the signs but holding back because you're unsure, because a part of you wants to believe it means something, write this in the comments. I don't chase crumbs. Let that be your line in the sand. Let it be your affirmation. Let them see it. Let you feel it. Tap that like button if you're done decoding mixed signals. Subscribe to stay on this journey with me. And stay close, because next, we'll talk about how their fantasy of you is growing louder than the reality ever was. And that, my friends, is where it really starts to hurt. Number 5. The fantasy of you is growing stronger than the reality ever was. When someone loses you, they don't remember who you were. They remember who they wished you would become. Here's what they won't tell you. The longer you stay silent, the more they start building a version of you that doesn't even exist anymore. a version shaped by guilt, regret, desire, and fear. And this version, it's perfect, it's powerful, it's mysterious. It's everything they never appreciated when they had the real you standing right in front of them. That's what your absence does. It amplifies everything. It stretches the memory. It edits the past. It exaggerates the connection. Because now, they're not just missing you. They're fantasizing about what they lost. They're not haunted by the arguments or the flaws or the distance. No. They're haunted by the best parts. The laughs, the late nights, the comfort, the way your presence used to calm their storms. And the more they think, the more that fantasy version of you starts to take over. But here's the twist. It's not even about you anymore. It's about them. About the hole inside them they're now realizing you used to fill. About the things they projected onto you. The hope, the safety, the meaning. But now that you're gone, they're left chasing a ghost. And that ghost, that's who they're in love with. Not the real, breathing, evolving version of you, but the version in their mind that never spoke back, never set boundaries, never walked away. And that fantasy, it's dangerous because it allows them to avoid accountability, to rewrite the story in their favor. Maybe it wasn't my fault. Maybe we were perfect. Maybe if I hadn't said that one thing. And so they keep looping, obsessing, wondering, not about fixing it, but about replaying it. Because replaying it is easier than facing the fact that they may never get another chance. You've become their unfinished chapter, their what if. And that might sound flattering. It might feel like justice. But don't let it pull you back in. Because being someone's fantasy is not the same as being someone's reality. The fantasy doesn't include the hard work, the effort, the growth, the honesty, the real you. You're out here evolving, changing, becoming, and they're still stuck in who you used to be. They're clinging to the highlight reel, the moments that fit their narrative. But you, my friend, you're not that person anymore. You're not standing still. You're not waiting to be idealized. You're moving forward while they're lost in reverse. And the more you evolve in silence, the more that gap widens. The more they feel the difference. And suddenly, the fantasy starts to hurt. Not because it's beautiful, but because it's no longer real. Because the person they're dreaming of no longer exists. And deep down, they know it. They know you're not just out there thinking about them. You're building, healing, glowing, becoming the person they always thought you could be, but never had the patience or depth to wait for. That realization, that's the heartbreak they never expected. That's the mirror they can't bear to look into. So don't go back. Don't shrink yourself to fit the image they created in their mind. Don't respond to their subtle pokes or quiet nostalgia, because they're not missing you. They're missing the version of you that needed them, and that person is gone. As the great poet Rumi said, don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure. That's what's happening now. Your silence is curing them of the illusion. It's waking them up to the reality that you were never theirs to control. And now, you're no longer theirs to imagine either. If you feel this truth, if you know they're holding on to a version of you that no longer exists, drop it in the comments. I'm not their fantasy. Say it out loud. Own it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world. And if you haven't already, hit that like button. Subscribe for more reminders of your worth. Because what we're going into next, it's the moment they finally start to break, but can't find their way out. And that, my friends, is when your silence becomes their loudest lesson. Number 6. The moment they realize they're trapped in their own prison. They built the walls to protect their pride, but forgot they were locking themselves in. At first, pride feels like power. It feels like control, like silence is strength. So when you went quiet, they thought they could match it, mirror it, maybe even win at it. "Let's see who breaks first," they whispered to themselves with a smug smile, thinking you were still emotionally hooked, still vulnerable to their absence. But time is a ruthless teacher. Because pride isn't peace, pride isn't healing, and silence without purpose turns into a scream no one else hears. So now, here they are, trapped inside the same silence they once weaponized. And it's not power anymore, it's pressure, it's pain, and it's growing. Day after day, the mask starts to slip. The games lose their thrill. The attention they chased feels hollow. The fake strength starts to crack under the weight of all the words left unsaid. They scroll through their feed, they see your name, and that familiar ache creeps in again. But this time, it hits different, because this time, they know they did this to themselves. They stare at the chat thread, empty and untouched. They hover over the send button, but every time their heart leans in, their pride yanks them back. What if they don't reply? What if I look desperate? So instead of texting, they suffer. Instead of healing, they replay. Instead of fixing, they freeze. They're stuck, caged, not by you, not by your silence, but by their own ego. The same ego that told them, "You don't need them, you're stronger than this." And now that ego, it's eating them alive. And here's where it stings the most. They thought you'd break. They thought you'd cave. They thought eventually the silence would become too heavy for you. But it didn't. You kept living, kept building, kept evolving. And now they're watching someone who's no longer available, no longer predictable, no longer waiting. That's what terrifies them. Because the silence they thought they could control has become the silence that controls them. And every second they don't hear from you, they start to question everything. Did I push them too far? What if they really don't care anymore? What if they never come back? The prison door is open, but they can't walk through it. Why? Because walking through it would mean admitting they were wrong, admitting they miss you, admitting they lost something real. And pride. Pride doesn't let you confess that easily. Pride keeps you pacing in circles, staring at the exit, but refusing to move. Meanwhile, you're free. Because you chose growth over games. You chose peace over power struggles. You didn't just go silent, you detached. You didn't just walk away, you walked forward. And that scares them more than anything, because now they know. They can't just come back and pick up where things left off. Too much has changed. You've changed. As Lao Tzu said, "He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty." And that's what you've done. You've mastered the one thing most people run from, emotional discipline. So let them wrestle with their silence. Let them sit in the prison they built brick by brick. You don't owe them a key. You don't owe them comfort, because they had your softness and mistook it for weakness. Now they're facing your strength and realizing it's something they can't manipulate. If you know they're trapped in their own pride, watching you rise while they remain stuck, type it in the comments. Their silence isn't my burden. Let that be your truth. Let it be your freedom. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're walking this path of peace and power. And stay with me, because in the next part, we talk about the moment they finally realize you're not breaking, you're becoming. And by then, it might just be too late. Number 7. Why you hold the power. When you don't break the silence. The one who holds their silence controls the conversation without ever saying a word. They thought silence was just space, just a pause, just a break in the noise. But they didn't realize silence is a weapon when held by someone who has mastered themselves. When you chose not to chase, not to explain, not to beg, they didn't know it yet, but the power shifted, quietly, completely. And now, every moment you stay silent, you remind them of one brutal truth. They lost control. See, they expected your silence to be temporary, a bluff, a phase, something that would fade with time, but it hasn't. It's only grown stronger. And while they play games behind closed doors, checking your stories, reading your captions, overthinking every post, you're grounded, calm, focused, and that's what makes your silence so powerful. Because it's not cold, it's not petty, it's disciplined. And discipline is terrifying to someone ruled by pride. You've stopped giving them anything to feed on, no reactions, no emotional flare-ups, no late-night confessions, nothing. And that's what's driving them mad, because people who are used to having power over others crumble when they lose access. They don't know what to do when you stop playing the part they've written for you in their mind. Now they're sitting in the dark, waiting for a message that's not coming. They're refreshing their notifications, hoping to see your name. They're stalking your presence, but you're not performing anymore. You're not there for their emotional comfort. You're not showing up so they can feel in control again. And that absence, that's the punishment they never saw coming. You flipped the script without saying a word. And don't get it twisted. They feel it, deeply. Not because you're being cruel, but because for once, they're being forced to feel the space they created. They're being forced to realize that real love, real presence, real connection, it doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it walks away with grace. And grace, my friends, is the loudest silence there is. It echoes in their chest every time they pick up the phone, but can't hit send. Every time they smile for the world, but crumble behind the screen. Every time they want to say, "I miss you," but pride locks their mouth shut. They're drowning in words they'll never say, while you breathe in peace you earned through restraint. Because you've outgrown the chase. You've outgrown the need to explain your worth. You've realized that real power is found in what you don't do, in what you walk away from, in what you choose not to respond to. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And you've realized it. That's why they can't figure you out anymore. That's why your silence haunts them. Because they don't know what page you're on now. They don't know if you've moved on, if you're healing, if you're thriving. And that mystery, it burns deeper than any message ever could. You've become the silence they can't stop hearing, the thought they can't escape, the proof that they're no longer needed in your world. And that scares them more than anything. So don't break the silence. Don't give them a piece of you that they didn't respect the first time. Don't go back just to make them feel better about losing you. Because the moment you speak, the illusion breaks, for them and for you. Let them wonder. Let them spiral. Let your stillness be the mirror they're too afraid to face. Because the longer you stay silent, the louder the truth becomes. You never needed closure from them. You became it for yourself. If you feel that power building inside you, if you've stopped explaining yourself and started choosing yourself, drop this in the comments. My silence speaks strength. Let them see it. Let the world see it. And most of all, remind yourself that this is who you are now. Like this message, if it hits somewhere deep. Subscribe if you're ready to keep walking this stoic path with me. And stay tuned, because next we're diving into what happens when they finally break, when pride collapses, and the message you thought would never come arrives too late. When they return, you won't be waiting. They never imagined you'd stop waiting. They just thought you'd wait silently forever. There comes a moment, and trust me, it always comes, when their pride can't hold the weight anymore. When their ego, once so inflated and confident, starts to crumble under the pressure of your absence. That silence they thought they could handle. It's suffocating now, and suddenly the idea of not speaking to you becomes scarier than the idea of looking weak. So they reach out, but not directly, not boldly. No, their return will be wrapped in softness, in casualness, in something safe. Maybe it's a, "Hey, saw something today that reminded me of you." Maybe it's, "Hope you're doing okay," or "I found your hoodie, want it back." It'll seem innocent, friendly, but underneath it's fear, fear that they've lost you for good. It's not a real apology. It's not a heartfelt confession. It's a test, a way to see if the door is still cracked open, a quiet knock in the dark, hoping you'll come running to answer like before. But what they don't know is this: you're not standing by the door anymore. You're not checking your phone every hour. You're not waiting for closure that never came. You've built peace in the silence. You've grown stronger in the distance. You've learned that missing someone isn't a reason to self-abandon. And that version of you, the one who used to chase, who used to crack first, who used to accept crumbs, that person is gone. You buried them the day you chose self-respect over chaos, and you never looked back. So now they're returning to a version of you they never expected. Someone calm, grounded, unbothered. Someone who responds without eagerness, without bitterness, without the need to win. Just presence, quiet confidence. The kind that says, "I didn't need this message to be okay, but thank you." And that is what shakes them the most. Because people expect one of two reactions: desperation or bitterness. Either you jump back in too fast, or you push them away in rage. But when you do neither, when you just stand there steady, calm and whole, they don't know how to respond. Because now they're not dealing with someone they hurt. They're dealing with someone they couldn't break. You won't be cold. You won't be cruel. That's not stoicism. That's pettiness. What you'll be is composed. You'll let them speak. Let them feel whatever they need to feel. But you won't hand your peace back just because they finally decided to come knocking. Because where were they when you needed clarity? Where was this message when you were picking yourself up in silence? Where was this energy when you were asking for effort? It's not revenge, it's revelation. They thought they had time. They thought you'd always be there, just out of reach. But your silence taught them the truth. The clock doesn't wait for anyone's pride. And while they delayed, debated, and danced around their feelings, you healed. You outgrew the version of yourself that needed their validation. So if they do come back, and they often do, remember this: it's not your job to make them feel better about their delay. It's not your responsibility to make them feel safe again in the space they walked out of. They're not returning to the same place, and they're certainly not returning to the same person. They'll try to feel familiar. They'll hope nostalgia softens you. But nostalgia doesn't rebuild bridges that pride burned to the ground. Only consistency, vulnerability, and real effort can do that, and most aren't willing to give it. So don't get caught in the illusion. Don't let a soft message reopen a healed wound. Don't mistake their return as redemption. Sometimes people come back not because they've changed, but because your silence finally got louder than their denial. And if they want access to you now, they'll have to earn it. Not through pretty words, through action, through honesty, through consistency. And if they can't offer that, you walk on. Because this version of you, the one who's healed in quiet, the one who's grown in shadows, that's not someone who waits. That's someone who attracts. If this spoke to you, Like this video, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Top of form, bottom of form.